When I was a teenager, I worked for a concert production company and a couple related companies that did merch at local shows. The venues for these shows ranged from festivals to all-age venues to the occasional huge gig. This encounter takes place at a teen girl pop show. Word to the wise, if you work in the music business and want to take a glimpse behind the true curtain of creeperhood, go to a show put on by a teenage female musician. Most of the audience were teenagers, sure, but there were a depressingly high amount of weird fucking dudes who didn't appear to have daughters in tow. My job at this particular show was to walk through the crowd and sell stuff. It wasn't really a bad job. Lots of exercise, fun atmosphere, and you got to watch the show, kinda sorta. Which wasn't that great when it was Christina Aguilera or Hilary Duff, but when it was a band you like, that's pretty cool. Anywho, about 2/3 of the way through the show, I sold all my glow sticks and had to duck backstage to get more. But it turns out the stash backstage was all gone too. So one of the management guys gave me some keys and told me to head down to the lower level to grab some out of storage. This is the level that had the locker rooms, and had access tunnels for the basketball team that usually plays there. The lower level that wasn't taken up with sports stuff was just assorted weird storage and access tunnels. Not an area of the arena that I was super familiar with. Once I took the elevator down, it hit me that despite the fact that there was a show going on right that second, the entire lower level on my side of the arena seemed like it was completely deserted. In a 14K plus seat building, this was really weird. Unless it's way after hours, there's almost never any time you're completely alone. I got 100 or so feet down the hallway from the elevator, then rounded a corner, and actually thought I saw a zombie for a second. There was a relatively young adult man standing in the hallway, kind of twitching and gurgling like he was having trouble breathing. He kept making these really weird noises in the back of his throat, and he was looking up at the lights on the ceiling. After reminding myself zombies weren't actually real, I worried he might be having a standing seizure, so I did something really stupid. I called out to him, "Hey, are you okay?" It didn't even occur to me that calling out to a strange adult acting weirdly in a deserted area might be bad news for a skinny teenage girl. He snapped his head up incredibly quickly, and the look on his face was just angry and malicious. He didn't look like he was in distress. He looked like he wanted to murder me. He was pretty normal looking by standard creeper metrics. Decent hygiene, clean shaven, and wasn't dressed like a slob. Maybe that's why I asked if he was alright rather than just running away immediately. But there was something in his eyes that just wasn't right. It was like he didn't see me at all. So obviously, I did the brave thing, and I turned around and ran as fast as I could back to the elevator. I can't say for sure if I really heard footsteps following after me, or if I had just imagined it because I was afraid. I reported him to venue security, because he had been in a secure area. So secure that, in theory, that elevator should have had a guard on it at all times. But for whatever reason, it didn't. Or maybe he hadn't even used the elevator. Who knows how or why he got in there. I never personally found out what happened, but the paper reported the next day that 6 people were arrested for drug use at the venue, and I wondered if he might have been one of them. If he was tweaked out of his mind, it would have explained the completely terrifying behavior. It wouldn't explain why he was an adult male, possibly on his own, at a girl pop show for young teens, though. When I was roughly 6 or 7 months pregnant with my daughter, my cousin asked me to go to an Evanescence concert with her in a neighboring city. We were pretty excited, and had pretty decent seats that were in front of the stage, but right behind the door, standing area. Since I was pretty far along, my cousin offered to go get us drinks and a snack to tide us over until after the concert. She had only been gone about 5 minutes when this older male sat down next to me. Immediately, the man began to strike up a conversation about the concert, if I had heard of the opening band, and just casual concert chatter. He was slightly overweight, balding, and had just this oddness to him. Not wanting to be rude, I gave him short answers and fiddled on my phone, hoping he'd get the idea that I wasn't really interested in speaking with him. A few minutes of awkward silence had passed, when he suddenly began asking questions regarding my pregnancy. These weren't the typical questions either. How big do my breasts get? Does my baby fall asleep or get squirmy when I have an orgasm? And a few other things along those lines. I was extremely uncomfortable, and just decided to ignore the guy, when another man in a row behind us heard all these questions, and tapped me on the shoulder to ask if I was okay, and to glare at the pervert until he left. I quickly breathed a sigh of relief when he left, and thanked the stranger. He told me it was no problem, and said to just give him the word if the pervert came back. Thankfully, my cousin returned only a few minutes later, and the concert began. It wasn't until halfway through the show, when Evanescence took a quick break, that the pervert showed up again next to me. This time, he laughingly said the concession attendant gave him an extra fountain soda by mistake, and offered it to me. I politely said no thank you, and told him I didn't like soda, and that my cousin had already gotten me a drink. He glared at me, and kept insisting I take the drink. Finally, to shut him up, I took the drink, but put it on the floor between my cousin and I. He seemed much happier when I took it, and the rest of the concert, I could feel him eyeing me and saw he was muttering to himself. The concert finishes, and we get up to leave, and for me to go to the bathroom, when the man takes my hand. I felt bile rise up in my throat, and snatched my hand away. He looked at me shocked, and then glanced down to the untouched soda, and immediately began screaming at me for not drinking his soda, and how he bought it especially for me. Funny, I thought you said they gave it to you as an extra on accident. The man wouldn't let me pass, and the place was crowded with people trying to get to their cars. I felt trapped, and this guy was becoming more irate by the second about his damn fountain drink. So I did the only thing I could think of. I pissed myself and started yelling my water broke. That got people moving so damn fast out of our way that we were finally able to lose the guy in the crowd. We made it home with no other incidents, and the entire time my cousin was apologizing for being absolutely clueless about the situation after I explained to her that I wasn't in labor and I had just pissed myself. I still have no idea what that guy was after, but I really feel like he slipped something into that drink. As a brief introduction for some background on how this happened, allow me to say I'm an old school metalhead. I travel around my tri-state area to see various heavy metal shows. The town I live in is a pretty small town, with no real musical scene outside of hip-hop and pop music. No venue here has anything I'd like to pay money to see. As such, I'm forced to travel at least an hour or so away to see any shows I'd like to see. This often has me traveling with my wife, my favorite concert buddy, usually clear across the state to see concerts. There's a particular venue we love to frequent, but it's a good 3 to 3.5 hour drive away. But it always has great metal acts playing there, many coming in from Europe. When we go to this place, we usually stay in a hotel/casino that's about 3 or 4 blocks away from the venue. It's a pretty short walk. This particular night, we just finished seeing Dark Tranquillity, a Swedish melodic death metal band. It was about 2 a.m. when we got out of the venue, as we'd stay behind for a little bit afterwards, hoping to meet either Dark Tranquillity or some of the opening bands, as often happens in small venues like this. And we did, so it was a little while after the show before we got out of there. So we leave and begin to make the walk back to the hotel. There are tons of fellow metalheads milling out as well, and it's kind of a general idea for many of us to stay in the same hotel, since it's right around the corner. Like I said, just a few blocks over. So we're all kind of walking in this large mob. Now, if you're into the heavy metal scene and frequent live shows, you'll know that it's a fairly tight-knit community. We're all there for the same reason, so everyone is usually pretty friendly and talkative, discussing the show, past shows, meeting band members, etc. Lots of pretty jovial discussion. I'd had to piss for over an hour at this point, but hadn't wanted to dip into the restroom during the end of the band's show, and afterward, the restroom was packed with a line flowing out into the back door. At this point though, it's hitting me pretty hard, as I'd also had a few drinks in the club. So rather than wait till we get back to our room, I decided I needed to stop at the public restroom down at the bottom of the parking garage and take a piss. It needed to happen. My wife doesn't mind, as she said she needed to piss anyway herself, so we split off. I come into the restroom and think I'm by myself, so I hit the first urinal there and start to have at it. As I'm about to finish up, the door creaks open, and this large, bald fellow comes in. He stops dead in his tracks right in front of the door for a moment, takes me in, like he didn't expect anyone else to be in there. Then, he goes to the sink, as I'm doing the same to start washing his face. I'm washing my hands, and he looks over at me with water running off his nose, and asks what I'm doing out here so late. I just explain that I'm coming back from a concert without looking at him. He then starts to ask what kind of music, and I explain to him that it was a heavy metal concert. He kind of shrugs and nods, and just says, "Cool." I'm finished up and drying my hands now, and he turns around and grabs my upper arm lightly, and says, "Hey, then maybe you're interested in buying something I have?" He starts to rifle through his jean pockets, and mumbles out it's there somewhere. I try to politely tell him I'm not interested, and need to get back out. He sort of shuffles in front of me quickly, semi-blocking the door. He looks pretty angry at this point, jutting out his shoulders. He's probably a good foot taller than me. I'm a fairly short guy, so this isn't really hard to do, but still. He says, "Look man, no need to be rude. Don't be a dick." I again decline, trying to stay polite. At this point, I'm starting to tense up, anticipating a scuffle. The problem is, I'm fucking exhausted. I just spent the better part of 3 hours jumping around and smashing my body into other people. Quite frankly, I'm already ready to collapse. The guy grabs my arm again, this time a little harder, and goes, "Hey man, I'm fucking talking to you." My sense of trying to be reasonable has left me at this point, as I'm too tired to give a shit anymore. Knowing I shouldn't, I tell him, "Man, you're the one being a fucking asshole. I'm tired and just trying to get the fuck out of here, so move out of my way." He shoves me, not really too hard, but from the chest, and steps closer to close the gap, saying, "I was trying to be nice." "Fuck you, you trying to start shit with me?" It runs through my head that while I almost always have my pocket knife on me, I'm completely unarmed, because I knew I couldn't bring the knife with me into the venue club through their security. So I'm preparing for the worst, as the guy seems hopped up on something, is a good deal bigger than me, and I'm in about zero shape to fight. It's about to get hairy, and this guy's blocking my way to the door. Just as I'm thinking this, the door creaks again, and I hear laughter and talking start to flood in. The guy lets go of my arm, and turns around to look as a group of 5 guys in black shirts, studded leather jackets adorned with dozens of band logo patches, and jeans strolls into the restroom. One of them is a Hispanic fellow with long curly dark hair. He sees me and waves and exclaims, "Hey, dude, what's up? That was a sick fucking show tonight, wasn't it?" One of his friends, another Hispanic guy with a shaved head, I think took in what might have been going on there, and says, "Hey, this guy giving you shit, man?" I look back to my bald assailant. A worried look has crossed over his features. Even being a pretty big guy, he realizes he's now got 5 guys at his back, a few of them as big as him too, and they're all pretty decked out. They probably look pretty intimidating to the average person not at a metal concert. He glances at me for a split second before saying, "No, we were just talking." I interject quickly, fed up with this jackass. "And now we're done talking. Get the fuck out of my way. Next time, don't be such a dickhead," and start to barge past him, pushing him aside. The Hispanic dude with the long hair turns back to me as I'm passing and says, "Hey, have a good night, man." I meet up with my wife, who decided to stay outside for a smoke. She asks what took so long, joking that I had to take a huge shit, before I tell her about it as we're going up the elevator into the hotel. We decide to stop in at the in-hotel bar and grill before returning to our room as we're both kind of hungry. After ordering, we're standing by the counter for a few minutes, and I hear laughter and loud voices coming from the lobby. We turn around, and the same group of 5 guys is coming our way back towards the snack shop. There's the bald guy lying there, laying on the ground and being handcuffed with 2 police officers over him. One of them has his taser in hand, and its line is connected to the guy's side. He starts to tell me that apparently the guy had stuck around in the restroom as they'd left, and one of them went over to a parked police car a few aisles over in the garage after noticing there was an officer in it. They told him some guy was on something in there, and that he'd been acting threatening and kind of shady. Apparently, the officer and his partner had decided to step inside the restroom and take a look. As the guys from the concert were going up the elevator to the hotel lobby, they'd heard them shouting, and looked down to see the guy being dragged out of the restroom by both officers. I guess he'd resisted or something, because apparently there had been a scuffle before one of them tasered him, and then, as we all saw now, he was getting cuffed and dragged into the police car. We had a good laugh about it, and talked while we waited on our food. Nice guys. I connected with one of them on Facebook, and we still laugh about that bald guy on occasion. What's up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to leave a like and possibly comment if you feel like it. If you have any stories that you'd like me to read specifically, or if you have any stories of your own that you'd like to send in, links to my social media will be in the description below. That's my Twitter, Gmail, and Facebook accounts. If you do decide to send in a story, please feel free to include the way you'd like me to credit you, as well as a headliner about what the possible subject of the story is. I always appreciate any stories you guys send in, so thank you guys very much for that. If you have any constructive criticism, please feel free to leave it in the comments below, as I'm always looking for new ways to improve the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.